Hey, it's Deb. I went to do my evening meditation, and we're back talking about experience noticers. This is a good Chappelle bit. Somehow, some way, in the intelligence of YouTube, when I was re-listening to my original Chappelle challenge from October 26, 2019, what gets served up to me? An appearance he did on Conan in the sort of midst of all of the excessive money for the TV show, the eponymous TV show. Hashtag redheaded She-Hulk here. I don't know why I'm not adjusting the screen downward. I'm enjoying this mise en scene. But experience noticers, we're the giraffes of the world. And that my fable has been blockchained in the digital record since March 2019. That I was evolving from a polar bear into a giraffe. And then, like, the only clip I've seen of Chappelle prior to whatever these last Netflix specials are. So back in a early mid 2000s. I mean, it's 2004. There he is talking about having giraffe money. He could have picked any animal, really. And we are giraffe archetypes. We're just these large Pacific mammals. Apex pacifiers. Not apex predators, apex pacifiers. We're the Zen observers. We got a neck. We got a way of looking just a little bit ahead of you all. We have access to more sensory data because of these unique perspectives, which are both physically embodied, but also mental responses to stressful environments that we develop our own heuristics to navigate. Like, that's the cruel thing, is the way we develop all these really original heuristics to parse what we notice. Humor is really the ultimate defense mechanism. Humor is the ultimate defense mechanism of a species with language. I have some really good things to say about being an experience noticer. And they were definitely up in my energy enough to want to come turn on the lights and get back on camera. And I'm not quite sure I'm dialed in. I mean, the giraffe bit was worth putting on here in case anybody starts catching my Chappelle challenge hashtag. We are a common archetype thinker and performers and truth tellers who've monitored the sort of intentionality of when we go into dark places. And there's a salience within us that knows how much it matters. That's where the compulsion comes in, that it is imperative that I do this work, no matter that nobody's ever done it before, and that therefore it doesn't have a value. So what I was thinking about was seashells. And again, the scarcity mindset, the cognitive paradigms of that scarcity and needing a state, a police force to enforce values of things. Scarcity, there is only so much gold. There were only so many seashells at a certain level. At a practical level, gold came in when there was a lot more movement, when gold spread between, London and Paris, and the resources to get to gold in Paris from London or vice versa. Time, money, risk, methodology. It didn't have, Eurotunnels and such. Cheap ass flights. We had a Concorde, now we don't. Did we need one to begin with? Do we want to create an all Concorde? In the future, will we only do international flights via Concorde? Could happen now. Why not? Whose job is it to be thinking about these things? Whose job is it to say, all right, let's just wind down the current airline industry, have a little noodle, have a global Zoom. What do we need for travel? Families kept in touch. Opportunities for new jobs and horizons and language learning, all great things. But all this commerce, as money becomes digital, we don't need people to move around for work. Widget work, creative work, human enablement, embodiment work, absolutely. Joy and love and pleasure, we don't want to give that up at all. But seashells, and using the two equivalently, we have to add in the temporal value that we would know. We're talking about, and I'll just use indigenous North American tribes that I'm slightly familiar with, and here in the Pacific Northwest, I know very little, but I have senses. I have senses that invented something, which was why I got up out of bed with the experience noticers. See, because when shells were currency, there was a reasonable amount of effort that a person could exert to go get more shells. When shells bought you food or animal skins or the right to live in a certain teepee or the right to place your teepee in the morning sun or in the evening sun. Now, whatever it was that they exchanged things for, overall, the bounty of the nature and wilderness was free. And it was really where you invested your time. And you would, of course, try to stock up on this and that, and there would be some planning, but for the most part, your windows of times and your need to have stocks and aggregates and supplies. It takes up so much human energy to keep track of all those ledgers. When if we're in the present and we're just living on the bounty of what we know, and we share the information, and we know where the best blackberry bushes are, and we know how to continue planting apple trees so that there's always enough. As every child is birthed, we plant an apple tree. The shells, occasionally there'd be really low tides. Occasionally, I'm sure something's effect. But overall, the shells were a renewable resource. As long as they didn't overinflate, as long as we made a collaborative, collective decision on the value, we didn't create situations where certain people got fearful enough to sequester shells, where they were a renewable resource for Mother Nature in and amongst themselves, where nothing was excessively costly, where everything that was needed was in balance. Well, that was a period of time before gold. Scarcity came, and bigger quantities of abundance got put into a scarcity model. And then we broke it. And then it became paper, and it became fiat currency, and now you're calling it cryptocurrency. I'm glad I heard this come from your mouth. Because I was all like, crypt, like Tales from the Crypt. I mean, that's what most people's first association is. Cryptography as far as an alphabet. As far as a language, we don't use the word cryptography to mean language. But D-money, digital money, that's something all 7.8 billion of us can start to want to know a little more about. Except for hunters and gatherers. Look, we're all under the delusion of white superiority. If you're on the internet, if you're getting any access, if you're in the proximity of anyone who's on the internet access, if you're in an agricultural society, even as completely isolated and rural as it may be, any agricultural society, I believe, is operating a human civilization that is probably not optimized to keep humans alive. Hunters and gatherers, when the industrial devolution doesn't interfere, would be really close. I mean, again, ayahuasca ceremonies. Why is that all Tim Ferriss can talk about? Humans are meant to be high, religiously. It's fundamentally an altered state of consciousness in which we create and can co-create really robust and resilient anti-fragile futures. Now, nobody understands what you're speaking to. If you understand altered states of consciousness as the only way you can stay alive, when you are fundamentally that close to death, that you really need to shift into complete artistic flow, to get out of bed, to do your work. The work that you can do is when you're in this state. Tune it down, and I call it fritzing. But what happens is language and social capacity plummets. Because if I don't have, to me, the altered state of consciousness is a crucial definition. Is embodied consciousness. It involves a real shift into pleasure that I do not normally experience in my life. I want to talk with scientists, with researchers, with other humans, other empathic embodiment people who really are in tune with what their body information is going on. Because I am certain that this is some sort of molded over synapses, like entire categories, entire branches and chains of my brain, my transient hypofrontality. Morally, one of the things those Kotler's always saying, you know, the Navy SEALs, and they get all up into this, and they're not moral. And I'm just rational and loving, and you know, this is the risk. Speaking honestly, big, incredibly risky thing to do in the US of hypocrisy, isn't it? Let it all just out. Truthfully, in flow, everything matters. It's all going to come together. So shells were an abundant natural resource. They really were. So money is not inherently scarce, nor does it inherently need to have trusted authorities nor police. Now, there will be a time when you hadn't had consciousness evolved to the fact that that representative of the concept of money could be an invention. Right? I've been blockchaining myself on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google, Gmails, my own website, www.insightsoccur.com. Somebody said it's a ledger. Somebody said it's distributed. Deb goes, I got it. I'm going to just do it for myself. That's how I'm going to secure my value. But here we are in a world that doesn't have the cryptography to need more than a 5-second attention span. I don't transduce to people when they're coming from a tweet about the election or a meme about this, or I only transduce to people who are fully present and really like seeing my whole block of text and going, what is all that? That is not typical for a comment. But these people who take these and there's, but it's that their response is just, oh, this is great. This is really fundamentally every single comment in some way, shape, or form. You know, everyone is not earth-shattering, but many of them, if they were taken appropriately, they're simply pivots. Orthogonal thinking is how Naval's put it. You know, I call it tesseracting. You can comprehend one of my comments, parse it. Okay, we're not, again, I use comprehend, understand, you know, there's no sort of, so it's not about mental smartness per se, not in the least. It's about a complexity of thinking and a willing to pull it all together. And if that's what you can do, you're one of the people who is a world evolver, and we must figure out how to get all of us operating in our zones of genius, because the world has got to change drastically, really quickly, in a very non-linear way. We need to use the math of life, 1 + 1 = 3. First, do no harm to any nugget of life. That's life-centric decision, #wellbeing philosophy. We're at D money, digital money. And we don't have to make it about scarcity. You don't have to make it about abundance, but the value is, as I see my own value, being no less than get me straight to Dave Chappelle. So we can get Stan Latham to negotiate. I know neither one of them would want me to make a penny less because I'm a woman, an amateur. I can do the same job as Dave Chappelle, and that's what I should earn. I'm going to say that again. Right after 21, I can do the same job as Dave Chappelle, and in a fair pay world, that's what I should earn. Get that contract ready, and I will work my butt off. I will create. You tell me, I'll do 90 minutes. I do 3 hours. Let me do 75. That's cool. That's cool. Let me do a series of 33 minutes. 9 episodes of 33 minutes. Where are we at? $18 million? $23 million? Holler, Netflix. And in the process, I'm going to help you 1 + 1 = 3, your search algorithm, because it's way too linear. Solving Netflix's search algorithm. Like it's too archaic. Movies aren't popping in the way we like to think about them. This is like that. Need more like of the themes in the movie, need more of like the timing of the movie, like I watch anything late 80s, early 90s to a certain extent, but I don't want to watch anything prior to the 60s. I really don't. We haven't really, I guess, digitized most of those old movies, so I don't know what I'm on about. But time is embodied. Time is truthfully temporal. That's that either or. Spend the time, invest the time to ask one more question. The chicken or the egg, which came first, blah, 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 blah. Ask one more question. If it was an egg, where'd the egg come from? Was it chicken? Where would the chicken come from? If the chicken came first, the chicken will come from an egg, because the egg is a chicken birthing mechanism. So, okay, if it is an egg, where did the egg come from? Clear answer, reptiles. Gold and shells were evolutionary concepts of money based on different time periods. And from 2020 onward, we simply do not need a physical representation of money at all. It's really got to go quickly because we shouldn't be handling things around. And we can just literally invent a UBI. I know everyone wants to play by all these rules, all these rules, all these rules. Humanity's fucking future's in jeopardy. We can invent a UBI for rent, electricity, internet access, food, reliably, equitably. Those who don't need it don't apply for it. We freeze a lot of hyper We freeze institutional trading, like hyper level, like everyone just, we January 1, 21, you have what you have. Now what we're going to do for 3 years is allow every human to have digital money to provide the basics wherever they're living right now. And then let's get to like inventing how to go back to normal. But let's save human lives. Let's get food, shelter, water. Let's freeze debts. Let's freeze assets. You got what you got. We've seen how enormous this impact is. Let's band together. Let's get everyone working, not for shareholders, but for humanity. Exchange of life force and what somebody can do, what somebody honestly and seriously feels is in the best good of humanity. We don't judge, we allow, we say, here's this period of time. How practical this idea is not the point. The expansion of your mind to be exposed to this idea is the point. Now you've got a little bit wider arm room to flap. Now you've got a longer runway to gain air to your own creativity, to the own problems that you care about solving. See, I'm certain when we stop forcing things, there's enough humans now to care about everything we need solved. But if we all have to just be bossed around, nothing's going to get solved. We must get ourselves to a place of being unbossed for the good of shareholders, for just a transition period. I think we'll ultimately say that's a really good thing to do, Deb. But we only need to see it as a transition period. We only need to fund it for 3 years. We just need to put asterisks on 90-day recording, earnings recordings, and things like that. We need to take one for humanity and make a world where every single one of the 7.8 billion humans gets to play the game of life from an equitable standpoint. It is going to be astounding how great things get. It really is. Now, this is one of those things where we cannot track this linearly. Most humans would need to take entirely 2021 off. And if we're easing down on the capitalism, on the early bird wins and things like that, giving a Jeff or an Elon time to chill a little bit. Think on these big plans. Think on their trillionaire wet dreams. Time to meet Deb and to say, you can force your Mars city, Elon, or you can have humanity, all of us, on your side. Go see my Venus before Mars video, if you would, please. That'll keep you up to date. So again, being mindful. I'm gonna pull a Pippin. Always a Pippin. We've talked through money. Africa's always right. Shells, necklaces. I believe, again, some of the things, this is the last 2 points I really want to add up on. Money would have also been, so shells are crystalline, gold is bars. only at a period when we had the capacity to burn that much whatever into fire to melt the gold. You see, it's all evolution. So prior to shells or in different ecosystems, pine nuts themselves, certain kinds of twigs, flowers, tulips, very much unequivocally in hunter-gatherer societies, certain flowers, of course, herbs and plants, medicinal. Big, big, big things of money. So we're back to again wanting the stuff that the archaeologists can hand us and we can see, and it's physically, but there would have been so much exchange of organic material and the knowledge of the value of organic material. The knowledge. And one of the things I'm certain y'all men have missed, because you're so 1 + 1 = 2 and I'm 1 + 1 = 3, is the noticers. There would have been from time immemorial, and I guess we'd probably call them shamans, the trackers. It would have been humans who were paid extraordinarily well for the capacity to be expert noticers. For instance, here in the Pacific Northwest, there would have been guides who would take people to secluded beaches, to incredible bluffs, who would give people the high experiences of nature, like my 2 eagles and the pine tree smell. I'm worth Chappelle money. That's how I'm gonna get to be a giraffe, y'all. I don't want to buy a giraffe. I want to be a giraffe and save the giraffes from being thought of as toys and pets. All right. It's the cages. And even the apartments are cages. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm mean. Be well. # redheaded She-Hulk over and out.